Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. It is my privilege to ask you to join me in welcoming Christopher Nolan and director Denis Villeneuve.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, what did you guys think of the movie? Come on.
No, but
A little more?
thank you, Chris. But I just want to say I said that in the past, but thank you so much for taking the time to come in a theater to watch the movie. That means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. In this beautiful DJ theatre. So, the last time we were here on this stage, I don't think I said it publicly, but I had the temerity quietly afterwards to say to you how much I loved the film, the first film, but that you had ended it right where it gets difficult as an adaptation. And you took that in the spirit which was intended, and several, years later, Surface watched the second half, and I think just the miraculous job of adaptation, of taking that second half and making an incredible conclusion to the story and continuation of the story. And so I get a lot of questions about how you did that. Starting with Usul, Moadib, Paul, Lisan Al-Gaib. How many fucking names can you give one character? And expect us to keep up with it. There's a serious question behind that, which is most adaptations, it's a process of condensing things and simplifying things. And I've read the book a couple of times over the years. I'm not that knowledgeable about it. But my feeling in watching both films, and particularly this film, is that this was actually an act of exploring the world further and burrowing into the complications and embracing those and world building beyond even what's in the book, I think. So how did you do that?
No, but it's true that my editor, Joe Walker, keeps saying why there's a 2 or 3 names for each thing in these books.
It's like reading Anna Karenina, right?
But it was like it's always a boring answer, but it started with the screenplay where there was a tremendous amount of work that was done to try to create as much cinema and not falling too much into exposition and trying to, let's say that the first movie there was a lot of exposition, but this one I tried at my best. A good example of that is the opening sequence where you have I try to refresh the memory of the audience just with the camera, establishing all the characters, the dynamics, who is the enemy, who are the good guys, the technologies involved, the limitation of the enemies, just by trying to do that with the custom design, the fight behaviors, the way the Fremen use nature as a strength. All that, and I try to keep that spirit through the adaptation. But it's true that I remember that I made a feature film once in the past that had to deal with a lot of names, and I used repetition, the idea of repetition. And there's something about the use of subtitles as well, where I know that the audience reading a name will remember it more easily. So that's yeah.
Yeah. I think there's also tremendous support for, I mean, you refer to it as exposition, but I think in a way it is just world building and what we're seeing, like seeing the sequence of how the water is extracted from the bodies and the care of that. I mean, I don't believe any of that detail comes from the book, does it? I mean, I think you're building those things from...
There is hints of it in the book. Sometimes I had to fill the gap, from the worm riding sequence, for instance. Herbert explained to us that they use a thumper, this device that creates a rhythm that will attract the worm. There's the hooks that will help the Fremen to rise a part of the skin so that it exposes a surface of the worm that it wants to protect. So that's why the worm does it. Anyway, etc. Things like that. But it doesn't explain actually how you jump on a worm and how you ride a worm. And so I had to go with my own theory, trying to figure out I will bring that to the screen, and then to try to, I did like a seminar to my crew how to ride a worm and how we will actually do it. And there was a big silence because it involved a tremendous amount of time. I didn't want to compromise, but it's true that I tried. The book was the Bible, but I was trying to fill the gap. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think marvelously so, and I think extraordinarily with the script in terms of the mythology, the religiosity, the spirituality, and how that culture evolves on the planet, how it's been manipulated, it becomes so important over the course of this film. I didn't see that coming from the first film at all. And I think, once again, it's quite an expansion, is it not, from what's suggested in the book in terms of the idea of the South, the fundamentalists of the South, the different approaches to the prophecy.
Yeah, there's a when when the first book came out, Herbert, from what I understood, was disappointed by the way people perceive the book. By some readers perceive the book as a celebration of Paul Atreides, and he wanted to do the opposite. He wanted to do a cautionary tale, a warning against charismatic figures. So, in order to correct that perception, he wrote a second book called Dune Messiah, where he was hoping that where his ideas would be more precise. And me knowing this, let's say that I made this adaptation more faithful to Frank Herbert than to the book. Meaning that it was important that at the end of the movie, it would be clear for the audience that Paul became a colonizer himself, a bit like Lawrence of Arabia, who fall in love with Arabic culture and at the end betrayed it, this culture. And it's the same. In fact, it's the same path. And in order to do so, I had to make some changes, specifically about the religious colonization and having some Fremen that are non-believers. That doesn't really exist in the book.
Yeah,
the Fremen all believe, but I made some of them the youth, being a bit more contemporary, having decided that they will not embrace those beliefs coming from the outside, that it's a kind of alienation coming from the colonizers. So, and that's what was interesting me in this adaptation, was the idea that the Bene Gesserit sisters, among them, Paul's mother is part of them, are using religion as a tool to control the population.
Yeah. So that the conflict that becomes so central at the end between Johnny and him, that's pulling forward from Dune Messiah, or that's something you brought?
Exactly. The thing is, no, it's not pulled forward. In fact, is that she in the book, she's in the shadow of Paul. In the second half of the book, she disappears in his shadow. She's a believer. She follows him, and I thought that there was an opportunity there to have her become our moral compass. That the whole structure of the movie is constructed on their love story, and we see them. He falls in love with the girl and the culture. And then their love is tested by the politics of the world. There's tension rising. They split. They separate. And the movie, in the third act, we start to embrace her point of view, and that's the way I thought it would be possible to bring this idea of cautionary tale, having her point of view that she judge. She disagree with Paul's new decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, she's seeing the fulfillment of the prophecy as self-fulfilling, as manipulation.
Yes, exactly.
And so the interpretive question I have is, through the film, there's a tension between the spirituality or the mythologizing around the prophecy, about whether it's believed in or whether it's an artificial contrivance by the Bene Gesserit. And so I'm curious as to whether you have a definitive view on that.
I mean, it's full Bene Gesserit power there.
Right.
Yeah, I think that I never was interested by the idea of the chosen one, or
Right.
someone that will come with special powers. Or I think I loved the idea that they will implant and the population believes in order to control them, in order to the land would be ready for to be controlled. Yeah, and having this boy that is oversensitive to a substance, and I tried to make this adaptation with as less, let's say, magic or fantasy as possible, trying to always to, if possible, to stay as grounded as possible, that there's always an angle where you can almost explain it. Yeah.
Well, I think that makes it very distinctive, because we're so familiar with this concept of the one, or the Messiah, with no explanation as to why. Whereas this film is rich in explanation, mythological explanation of how this prophecy has come about, what it represents, and there's a greater purpose to it. So I think it makes it very distinctive.
But the thing is that I'm not interested by the fact that Paul is special. I'm interested how the other people are looking at him, and why they are looking at him this way, and how much power it gives him, and how dangerous he becomes because of that, and which will lead to a next movie where for those who know Dune Messiah, it doesn't turn for the best.
Well, I mean, that sort of brings us pretty naturally to the performances, because I think Timothy Chalamet gives an incredible performance in this film. And I don't think there's anything, even in the first film, that you see where this is going to go with the full arc of it. And I wondered, I mean, firstly, I'm assuming after you saw him in Interstellar from 10 years ago that you realized what a terrific
He's the Muad'Dib, right there.
Exactly. It's all right there. But when you cast him as the young, Paul Atreides in the first one, I guess you must have known, where this was going or where it would take him. But it's quite a leap of faith, I think, to go from such a youthful character, because I wondered, I mean, obviously there's Lawrence of Arabia there, particularly, in the montage of sequences where they're disabling the spice infrastructure, things like that. But I wondered if you talked about Michael Corleone. There's something in the arc, there's something in the darkness that gets uncovered over the course of the two films.
It's absolutely one of the let's say the example that I use with Timothy, the Godfather, this idea of a character that is against his family beliefs and that will finally embrace through the circumstances, become what he was trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And that tragedy and losing his family and all the tragedy that comes with that. And that's probably where the discussion started with Timothy.
Right.
I'd seen Timothy, I don't know if you remember, the King from David Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's a fantastic film where Timothy really embodied that young king with the incredible bravado and power. Even if he was younger at the time, I was really impressed, and I knew that he has that inside him, that strength. And I had to pull him back during the first movie where he was trying all the time to, and I said, no, the Muad'Dib is later. I had to bring him down all the time, and that's why when in this scene when he does his speech to the crowd, that he was so happy. Finally.
Well, please talk some more about that scene, because I watched it again today, and that scene, I think, is so extraordinary as a representation of somebody, exercising their power, realizing how they can. And what I think is powerful about it is you understand his reasons for doing so, even as you're uncomfortable seeing it through Channings's eyes. You're worrying, but at the same time. But what was that scene like to shoot? Where did you shoot it? How did you shoot it? Talk us through that a bit.
It's a scene that we were more ambitious at the time with the set, and it was even when even when you have a lot of money, you never have enough money. and that scene at the end, at first I thought that I could shoot it. I'm not answering to your question, but I think that as directors we know it's the limits, and from those limits I came with the idea that it could be like a cave like that with shaft of light. At the beginning it was supposed to be like more like a crater with a huge circle in the center, but it was not technically possible to do that. We had our share we tried to shoot as much as possible the movie with real sunlight, but the size of that room that Patrice had designed was so ridiculously big, it was not possible to even create that. And so we came with this idea. We saw it was shot in one of in Budapest on a soundstage, massive, and the ground with a massive platform, and Greg Fraser had created those shafts of light that with the perspective in them, so we can emulate the distance. And I brought as much extra as we could, but there was of course a lot of crowd replication. It was shot over the course of 2 or 3 days, I think, and it's like what I love about this scene is to see that man walking in the crowd and changing the chemistry of the crowd just by his presence. And
how many extras did you actually have for him to perform?
I think I have the worst memory for that, Chris, but I think it will be 300 or something like that.
Yeah. So he had a
he had a crowd. He had a crowd. And of course it's old tricks where the first ones have nice costume, and the more you go back, the worse is. But you want to have as much as possible, but it's always like that.
Yeah. And how did he prepare for that? He was just raring to go to show what the character
But there was tremendous amount of preparation, because he was also doing the scene in Shakopsa with this language that has been designed for the film.
Right.
And it's a language that was extrapolated from the book. Herbert, there's a lot of words in the book of Shakopsa words from the Fremen language. but you don't necessarily have full sentences, etc., etc. So we hired. I'm getting out of your question a bit, but
No.
it's we hired a linguist, David Peterson, who created the full language with his syntax, his grammar, his logic, his poetry, and everything inside, and translated the dialogues. And the actors were watching videos of David teaching them the pronunciation. And so all my actors went to some kind of Shakopsa school, if you want. So. And I had a dialect coach on set that was there to make sure that they had the right pronunciation. So everybody will speak the same, so it will sound as real as possible. But the actors knew the meaning of each word. They knew the logic of it. They knew the grammar logic of it. So they got really used to speak Shakopsa and being able to put the right intonation at the right place, etc. And so it means that when Timothy make his speeches, he's like he's saying things that are real. I mean, he knows what he's talking about, and it resonates into his acting. It went to a point about the language where I remember doing a shot where I was quite pleased, and the dialect coach come and said, "Actually, Denis, it's mispronounced here, and we should redo another take." And I said, "Come on, dude, it's a fake language." but for me, I don't know. You know, when the actors or when the team, the people take that so seriously, how warm it is for the heart of the director. Yeah. But so. I rehearsed with Timothy to answer your question. There was a lot of rehearsal because of the language, and Timothy came and we had a rehearsal a day before everybody came, just to talk about the mise en scène in general, and then we shot.
And with the climactic scene where he makes the emperor, kiss the ring and everything, were you able to shoot that after that scene? Were you able to schedule that way?
Yes.
Yeah, because I would have thought that would be quite important for him.
Yeah. I tried to shoot as much in chronological order as possible, but because there's of course we shot all the stage work, and then we went to the desert after, so things become a crazy puzzle. But yes, for that particular scene was toward the end, for many reasons as well, because it was a scene that I felt was strangely brought a lot of anxiety to me because of the amount of point of views, the amount of actors that would be involved. I don't know. I'm used to be very monomaniac, following one character, and there I had to deal with all these guys at the same time. And for other people, it's ordinary. For me, it was a scene that I was more stressed by that than by any other scene. Yeah.
Well, no, you were right to, because if you hadn't done it right, the film would have collapsed. It's absolutely the point of the film. So you were definitely worrying about the right thing, but it's magnificent. I mean, wonderful. Talk about the rest of the cast. I mean, so many great actors. No point in sort of listing them all. Some of the newcomers, like Austin Butler, coming to this. Guidi Prime, that whole world, showing that for the first time. How was that?
It's one of the first thing we shot. I wanted the light to be black and white, to have that kind of eerie black and white. And Greg Fraser, the cinematographer, we decided to shoot with IR, in IR. It means that you change the software of the camera, and only the infrared will come through the lens. And
so it's not just black and white; it's infrared.
Yes, infrared.
Okay.
Because I wanted the light to feel alien. The whole idea was that what if I'm in a planet where the sun, instead of revealing colors, subtract colors, it kills the colors. And the idea was to try to bring a natural environment from Guidi Prime, from the Harkonnen planet, that will give us some hints on the psyche of the character. Like, the thing I love about the book is that it's in some ways the book is also a study of how ecosystem influence population, humans. From the desert, you understand all the Fremen, their habits, behavior, technology, religion, beliefs. It's the ecosystem, the influence of the. And I wanted to have some. Guidi Prime is a planet where the Harkonnens totally destroy nature, the environment. It's an industrial planet, but I wanted to have some what's left there from nature, and I thought about the light, which Greg got really excited because it gives us the opportunity to shoot in black and white, and he brought the idea of IR. The thing with IR is it looks amazing, but there's no way back. I mean, it's that I explained that to Mary Parent, that I adore, because she's fearless. She understood the power of it, but it is what it is. What is interesting with IR also is that the skin becomes almost like vampire skins. The eyes are very picky. But it reacts, the fabric and everything reacts really strangely. Like for instance, in IR, maybe my pants will be white and my shoes gray, and we had to retest all the costume and redo the costume according to. So when Fade Rota, Austin Butler character, walks on in the arena, he doesn't look like a clown. I wanted them to stay black, and so it's there was a lot of testing with that, and we shot that again outside, constructed a big area with white sand, and that became some kind of. I hated myself because I realized I had created a kind of giant microwave. It is by far the toughest shoot I ever done, because we spent it was like I don't know 10 days in that box, and it was like 50 degrees Celsius or something like that, and people were collapsing because of the heat, and I was starting to work with Austin Butler for the first time there, and he was with his makeup, with his armor, doing his choreography, always smiling. I was trying to push him back in his trailer. He didn't want. He wanted to stay with me with the camera because he had too much. He's an incredible spirit, and me, I started the part 2 on fumes, running on fumes, because we had just finished part 1, did press, award campaign, prep, and I didn't have the time to even an hour to rest. And so the thing that kept me alive during the whole shoot were moments with Timothy when he made his speech, or when Austin was cooking alive and he was still smiling. That I don't know if you experienced it, when the actors bring life and from the and the energy. Incredible.
And where were you shooting that then?
In Budapest. Yeah.
Oh, in Budapest, just in the sun.
Yeah.
Right. And do you always start with something challenging? Because obviously that was one of the most challenging sequences in terms of, from a technical point of view, having to test.
We had a little pre-shoot in Italy before, so that was not right. The sequence where the princess and the Reverend Mother are, bless you, they are chatting together in those gardens. That is a little pre-shoot in Italy.
Warm up.
Yeah, warm up. But honestly, I like to start with things that are a bit intense, as to go back in the mud and wake up. Yeah.
And also the accent, the voice that so clearly relates to the Baron. Was that planned? Was that something you challenged him to do? I mean, it's a remarkable
The
feat.
truth is it's something that we talked about at first, and I think it's an idea that come from Austin. He said, "What if?" And I said that would be brilliant. Can you do that? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I think it adds so much. So let's talk a little bit about the technical aspect. How are you realizing this world? Because what I said when we spoke about the first one, and I felt even more with this one, is there's such a fantastic relationship between the design, the world that you're building, and the use of digital effects, the use of visual effects with practical effects, with what you're building. How do you manage to make it so cohesive when different people, different departments are doing things? So often on a movie set, a green screen is put up and the problem is just kind of punted down for somebody else to solve later on. How are you? That's clearly not the case with this world building. It's so cohesive. You believe in these environments so much. So talk us a little bit through that process. How do you keep that in that way?
Man, the thing is that it's all it's all in prep. I mean, it's like my production designer Patrice Vermette is very, very, very precise, and his artwork. Greg Fraser will tell you. We're looking at the artwork very often, and the idea was trying to match that and to be faithful to the spirit, because I insisted right from the start when we did part 1 that the way we will use light, the spirit of the light, the texture, the contrast, all the artwork will embrace that, to try to be as precise as possible. It's the first thing I've done, in fact. I hired concept artist. I was alone with him, and it was just to find the alphabet and the main lines of the Arrakis, but mostly to find the color palette and the light, to make sure that and from there so there's something that we can always bounce back, and it's very, very precise. Yeah, it's not. I think that I learned the hard way, right?
How much
before I made the mistake not to pay attention to that, and then you arrive, as you said, and the VFX are left and right, and it's like so to be sure that everything is aligned from the start with the spirit of it. We have like very a Bible that everybody needs to follow, and it's very precise.
And how much is Patrice able to build? How much are you building practically in terms of set?
As much as possible.
Yeah.
As much as we can, and always keeping the set extension for what is behind. Almost, if it can be out of sight of the actors, I strongly believe that it's easier for the actors to focus on the internals, the things their psyche, what they have to go through. If they don't have to think about if there's a table there or seats or if the walls exist, it informs everybody. Even as we shoot, I mean, for me and the cinematographer, I mean, so it's like I try to build as much as possible. It gets tricky when you do a spaceport. Of course, we have tricks for that, but otherwise, when we're inside, we try to build as much as possible, and outside we go in the desert. So.
And what about the vehicles? Are you building any full size? I mean,
yeah. The ornithopters were built. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're there. The actors can get in.
Interact. Yeah. Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. That's paradise when you can have your own vehicles like that. Like
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Batmobile. Okay.
And desert-wise, what were you shooting? It looked like Jordan. Was it Jordan you were shooting?
We went back to Jordan, and we went back to Abu Dhabi. In the first movie, we shot a bit on Jordan and a tiny bit in Abu Dhabi. This time, we spent a lot more time in Abu Dhabi,
right.
in the deep desert, and we were shooting in a cooler moment of the year, so I was able to do full days. Right. As in part one, we were only able to shoot early morning and late at night, but not late at night, late in the day. Sorry, but and this time we spent a lot of time in the desert, which is incredibly inspiring and incredibly exhausting.
Yeah. Well, particularly with some of those costumes. I mean, just look at the opening sequence; those guys with those full helmets.
They are heroes.
Yeah.
Because just of the color of it. Imagine they had fans and things, but it needed to be stunts. Yeah, it was not easy.
Yeah, well, extraordinary work, and they're doing wire work out there in the desert. You're lifting people for real, and
yeah. We tried to do again. It shows, it feels that you have that sensation. It's visceral when you're physical when you see something happening for real in front of the camera. It's You know, I'm not explaining this too. Sorry.
Talk a little bit about the music. Hans Zimmer, the great Hans Zimmer, really moving on from the first film. I mean, it's so cohesive with the first film, but the love theme is absolutely beautiful. Yeah. And it's a really it's a very moving score and very unique. What was your process working with Hans moving on from the first film?
But the thing is that, of course, there were new elements coming, like the Arcanons, or there were a lot of new themes that needed to be done. But the first thing I said to him is that the most important thing, Hans, is because as like the structure of the screenplay, it was based on that relationship, the intimacy between Paul and Shani. I will need a powerful, strong love team. And you know, Hans, I mean, when I say love team, he became white like a piece of paper. And I said, what's the problem? He said, those are the most difficult. and he for months, it was like a torture. He was like thinking. But when he found it and he came, because the idea was to find a love team that could become tragedy at the end, something that could be linked with the desert, with the love of the desert, the culture. He wanted the love team to be about the woman and about the landscape, and it was like a long process to find that theme. But and there was again substantial amount of experiment. There were like I remember coming into a room with two French musicians that had built that kind of strange machine that was creating a very alien sound. Anyway, it's difficult to describe what they were doing, but Hans was playing that crazy instrument. There's a lot of so the work was progressive, going in, as you know, building the score slowly as I was doing post, and I don't know if I answered correctly to your question, in fact.
Absolutely. When I would talk to Hans and ask him for a theme, he would go white as a sheet. But no, I think it's incredible the way he built the whole thing, and to me it speaks to something. And we have to wrap up soon. But to make the point that when you made the first one, these are not films that were shot back to back. There wasn't one big thing, which is often the case when things are divided into parts. So when you set out to make the first half, you did not have a green light for the second half. You had no idea whether you'd ever, and presumably the actors didn't know whether they'd be able to finish the story. Or, I mean, that's mad.
No, but there's something beautiful in that, because it's like it's honest. I mean, if it works, and I always felt the truth that I had massive support from Legendary. I mean, they were like strong believers in the project from day one, and when they saw the cut of the movie, I knew that the chances to go back on the Arrakis were very high. It will need a true disaster to, because they really loved the first part, and we all wanted to do the second one. But I love the honesty of that. And I remember being in the desert, I was doing the final scene when they walk on the rock, and saying to myself, well, that may be it. I mean, let's enjoy it. I tried doing part one to bring as much of the old dreams I had from the book on screen. So if ever it was the end, at least I will have fulfilled a part of it. But it was definitely very rewarding to finish the book. Yeah, very.
Well, I think I speak for everyone here to say we're as glad as you are that you got to finish it. And what a remarkable piece of work. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
Thank you to you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.